For ABC 10 News at 5 starts right now.
A father and son arrested 25 years after the disappearance of a California college student, the evidence that led to the major break in the Kristen Smart case.
Plus, an 11-hour standoff on the campus of San Diego High School ends with a shooting suspect killed by police. Why one of the suspect's victims says it was the right thing to do.
And the U.S. calling for a pause on the Johnson & Johnson vaccine after evidence of blood clotting in just a few cases. We're going to go in depth on the risks and what's next.
ABC 10 News at 5 starts now.
Forensic physical evidence was located, and yes, we believe it's linked to Kristen. And yes, we did find physical evidence at least 2 homes.
A major break in the 1996 disappearance of a California college student, Kristen Smart. Good evening. I'm Kimberly Hunt.
And I'm Steve Atkinson. Today, investigators announced a father and son. They have been charged for their roles in the case, even though Smart's body still has not been found. Our ABC 10 News reporter Leah Pizzetti joins us on this story with the new developments in this decades-old case. Leah.
The man who was arrested today, Paul Flores, has been a person of interest since 1996. But it's only this year that they started calling him a prime suspect, and it was only today that he was arrested.
A photo shows Paul Flores standing in front of his San Pedro home Tuesday morning in handcuffs. Authorities confirm he has been arrested on murder charges. His 80-year-old father also simultaneously arrested and booked on accessory after the fact charges. Tuesday, the San Luis Obispo sheriff making this major announcement.
I will say this, and this is probably a question that I will answer at this point, that we have not recovered Kristen. We will continue to focus on finding her remains regardless of any court action. So we will continue the process of finding out where Kristen is.
Kristen Smart is originally from Stockton. She was a freshman at Cal Poly in San Luis Obispo in 1996 when she went missing. Paul Flores, another student, says they left an off-campus party together. Flores says she walked back to her dorm and that was the last time he saw her. That was the last time anyone saw her. In 2002, Smart was declared dead. In the past decade, searches across the state have picked up. The San Luis Obispo Sheriff's Department says since 2011, they've searched 16 locations. Within the last year, there have been 3 searches targeting Paul Flores and his family. This past March, officers searched with cadaver dogs and ground-penetrating radars and made several digs around their Arroyo Grande home. Detectives also collecting some sort of digital device and an old Volkswagen. Paul Flores now lives in San Pedro. His home has been searched many times, and it's here that he was arrested Tuesday morning. Kristen Smart would have been 44 years old this past February.
Now, as you heard, Kristen's remains have not been found yet, but the SLO sheriff did say they have found physical evidence during their searches, but those were sealed search warrants, so he was not able to disclose what evidence was found. That will likely come out in any future cases. Leah Pizzetti, ABC 10 News.
So many questions left to be answered. Leah, thank you. We first broke the news about the arrest on our ABC 10 News mobile app. To get real-time news on your smartphone or tablet, just go to the App Store and search 10 News.
A fugitive suspected of shooting at police and a bounty hunter in the last month is now dead. SWAT officers shot Christopher Marquez following an overnight standoff on the campus of San Diego High School. ABC 10 News reporter Jennifer Kastner spoke with the bounty hunter who was shot during an earlier run-in with Marquez. That bounty hunter says police did the right thing.
That bounty hunter told me it's unfortunate this ended with a death, but that officers did what they had to do to keep the hostage alive. Tuesday, dozens of police officers were seen surrounding San Diego High School, where Christopher Marquez was shot to death by 2 SWAT officers who feared for the safety of a woman who he was holed up with in a dumpster.
I am glad that he is not a risk to the public anymore.
Tuesday, we spoke to Agent Clark, the bounty hunter who was shot by Marquez in March. He was serving him a warrant in Chula Vista when Marquez reportedly opened fire, striking Agent Clark, who is still suffering.
I was shot in the left leg and in the right bicep. I do have nightmares a lot. I do have problems sleeping.
Tuesday's deadly standoff started Monday night with a chase. National City Police said they spotted Marquez riding in a woman's car, but when they tried to pull them over, they took off, leading a high-speed pursuit through Point Loma and eventually downtown. 3 times they said Marquez fired at officers, the 3rd time downtown, where an officer fired back. The woman and Marquez, who was believed to be armed, jumped into a dumpster on the high school campus where they remained for hours. SWAT officers and negotiators were called in. STPD said she tried to escape, but he wouldn't let her.
She began screaming and begging for the male not to shoot her and not to do this. 2 officers saw the male push the female towards the ground, and they could see a rifle being brought up, prompting them both to fire their weapons.
Use of deadly force had been authorized, and he was shot to death around 9 a.m. The woman is reportedly uninjured. Police said that just last week, Marquez shot at National City officers and ran off after they pulled him over, believing his car was stolen. The search to arrest him ending Tuesday morning. And police said it's not yet known whether the woman who was involved will face any charges. Jennifer Kastner, ABC 10 News.
Teachers and students had to scramble this morning following that standoff. They were preparing for what was supposed to be their 2nd day of in-person learning. San Diego High School and nearby Garfield and East Village high schools made the decision to cancel classes. One teacher that we spoke with says it was easy for him to pivot right back to virtual learning, but he felt badly for students.
It has to really suck for it to be so disruptive. I mean, I know that kids were telling me, the ones that were coming in person, how excited they were. And then, of course, seeing them yesterday, and you can see the smiles in their eyes because, they have their masks on. And it's a disruptive year for kids.
The schools are expected to return to in-person learning tomorrow.
Vaccine sites in California and more than 40 other states have paused the rollout of the Johnson & Johnson coronavirus vaccine. Federal health officials are investigating after 6 patients developed a rare kind of blood clot. Our ABC 10 News anchor Derek Stahl is going in depth with the 2 doctors on the risks and what's next.
Blood clots are common. As many as 900,000 Americans experience one each year. But the 6 cases that prompted the pause of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine are not your average blood clot.
It's really a very specific and unique type of blood clot that tends to occur in certain vessels throughout the body, some in the brain, some in the guts.
All 6 cases occurred in women between the ages of 18 and 48. They had severe, in some cases life-threatening symptoms 6 to 13 days after the shot. And what makes their clot so unusual is these women also had low platelet counts, the cells that glom together to form clots. In some ways, that's the opposite of what you would expect, says Dr. Christian Ramers of Family Health Centers of San Diego.
It looks like it's not your typical blood clot that some people get in their legs or in their lungs, but it's an immune-related blood clot.
The clots are similar to ones linked to the AstraZeneca vaccine. Of the 34 million people vaccinated with that shot, about 222 have experienced this rare brand of blood clot. The European Medicines Agency now lists it as a very rare side effect of the AstraZeneca vaccine. Most of those cases also happened in women under 60.
Women, for whatever reason, have a much more exuberant immune response in general. It's the reason why more women have autoimmune disease. It's thought to be related to hormones, particularly estrogen.
UC San Francisco infectious disease expert Dr. Peter Chin-Hong points out AstraZeneca and Johnson & Johnson use the same vaccine technology, which is not found in the other shots. It's called a viral vector, basically a dummy virus that transports genetic code. Some researchers have theorized that in rare cases, a few of those dummy viruses might be breaking apart early, releasing genetic code in the wrong spot. But the science on that is far from settled.
There is no such thing as a perfect medicine that is 100% effective with 0 risks, or a perfect vaccine that is 100% effective with 0 risks.
Dr. Ramers points out there have only been 6 cases associated with the J&J vaccine after 6.8 million doses. That puts the risk at about 1 in a million.
The risk of being struck by lightning is 1 in 500,000. So this is just actually half the risk of being struck by lightning. I suspect that we're still going to be using Johnson & Johnson vaccine as soon as this weekend. We just need to take a breath here, look at the data, and then maybe the CDC and FDA will develop some additional guidance about what to look for.
The FDA is encouraging people to watch out for symptoms like severe headache, abdominal pain, leg pain, or shortness of breath within 3 weeks of the J&J vaccine. Derek Stahl, ABC 10 News.
And people across San Diego County scheduled for the Johnson & Johnson vaccine will likely wait a little bit longer. Less than 3% of all vaccines administered in the county have been the J&J shot. County Supervisor Nathan Fletcher says the pause should have minimal impact on supply. Anyone scheduled for the J&J shot will be given priority and rescheduled for Pfizer or Moderna. And starting Thursday, the state of California will be expanding vaccine eligibility to everyone that is 16 and up. That's leading to serious concerns about the vaccine supply, which is already unable to meet the demand. Suzanne Shea, who is a pharmacy vaccine coordinator for Sharp Hospital Healthcare, urges everyone just to be patient and says there are more places than you might realize giving shots.
There is more supply coming into the state as we move into May, so don't get discouraged. There are many locations around the city that maybe people aren't aware of. Your local grocery store, CVS, Rite Aid, those type of places, in addition to the large mass vaccination centers.
Shea says if you get an appointment on multiple sites, please make sure you cancel any one you're not using so someone else can take that appointment.
In Minnesota, the police officer who shot and killed a young black man during a traffic stop Sunday has resigned, along with the chief of police. ABC's Andrea Fugie has the latest on the volatile situation not far from the George Floyd trial.
The police officer who claims she mistakenly pulled her gun instead of a taser on Daunte Wright, killing him, has resigned. So has the chief of police. This comes a day after Brooklyn Center Police, a suburb of Minneapolis, released Officer Kim Potter's body camera video that shows her grabbing her gun instead of her taser. Authorities claim it was accidental. The fatal encounter happened Sunday afternoon when police say the 20-year-old was pulled over for an expired vehicle registration. After running Wright's name, they discovered a warrant for his arrest for a misdemeanor charge. Following the shooting, protesters took to the streets. Several businesses were damaged and some officers hurt. The unrest just 10 miles away from where the former Minneapolis police officer is on trial for the death of George Floyd.
Our community is enduring a trauma, and now a trauma on top of a trauma as we are also going through the Chauvin trial.
The Wright family angry and distraught.
Say his name! Daunte Wright! They murdered my nephew!
Their attorneys saying this didn't have to happen.
It was intentional they stopped him. It was intentional they used the most force. They could have gave him a ticket. But when it's black people in America, they engage in the most use of force. And it ends up with deadly consequences.
Wright's mother spoke on Good Morning America.
I know my son was scared. He's afraid of the police. And I just seen and heard the fear in his voice, but I don't know why. And it should have never, ever escalated the way it did.
The state is now investigating the shooting. Daunte's girlfriend was a passenger in the car at the time and suffered minor injuries after the car crashed. Andrea Fugie, ABC News, New York.